Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi Makdish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Port of Spain shoppers anxious amid rising crime concerns. Barrackpore man granted bail in attempted murder case. Gym instructor charged with sexual offences against minor. And internationally, Notre Dame Cathedral restored to splendour, set to reopen. Now for the details. As Christmas shopping intensifies in Port of Spain, fear of crime is a growing concern for both shoppers and store employees. One retail worker on Henry Street described the tense atmosphere, sharing fears of theft despite visible police patrols, which some feel are insufficient. Reports of recent robberies, including an elderly woman targeted outside a store, have heightened anxieties. She called for increased police presence and strategic patrolling across busy streets, but noted a lingering distrust of law enforcement due to reports of criminals posing as officers. Shoppers are advised to remain vigilant and cautious this holiday season. A 52-year-old Barrackpore man, Anil Suku, has been granted $300,000 surety bail after being charged with attempted murder in a chopping incident. The High Court Master also ordered Suku to report to the Barrackpore police station 3 times a week as part of his bail conditions. The charges stem from a November 20th altercation at Suku's home on Kanai Road North, where an argument with a 23-year-old man escalated into violence. The injured man sought medical attention and was discharged on November 25th. The case is set for a status hearing in September 2025, with a trial scheduled for January 2026. A 37-year-old Point Fortin gym instructor, Brent Alexander, has been granted $150,000 surety bail after appearing in the High Court on charges involving a female minor. Alexander faces 1 count of indecent assault and another of causing a child to engage in sexual activity, alleged to have occurred on February 10th. As part of his bail conditions, he must avoid any contact with the victim. Investigations were led by officers from the Special Victims Department. The case has been transferred to the Superior Magistrates Court, where Alexander is scheduled to appear on January 15, 2025. Internationally, France's iconic Notre Dame Cathedral has been restored after the devastating 2019 fire, with President Emmanuel Macron leading a televised tour ahead of its December 7th reopening. The €700 million restoration brought the masterpiece back to life, featuring bright interiors, rebuilt wooden roof beams, and modern safety upgrades. A mass gratitude is planned for 1,300 artisans who worked tirelessly on the project. While most features remain faithful to the original, debates continue over the design of new stained glass windows. Macron praised the restoration as a testament to French craftsmanship and collective will. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Makdish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
His name is Felix Dean. He's my guest on this edition of the program. His story became one in the media in Trinidad and Tobago a couple of years ago. It was featured in a review that Dr. Sheila Rampersad was conducting with people in prison. It turned out that he had been there almost 40 years at the time because he had killed someone in Palo Seco, which is where he's from, in an issue in which the story is heartrending when you hear it and when you hear what he went through in the prisons in that period. On many occasions, he'd been up for review, and the process just kept getting stalled. And that's where I came in a couple of years ago, starting to write about, put a focus on it. He's here, he's been released, and he's looking at a new lease in life. We're talking about life after a period in prison such as that. Good to see you.
Yes.
I want to ask Why do you think that you were released from prison after 42 years?
Well, I believe the reason why I was released, I believe it is the effort that outside the Mercy Committee, because they had ignored every petition that for a review. They keep promising, and in fact all review were never heard. And one day I was sitting in the prison about 4 or 5 years ago, and this woman came and asked for Felix Dean. And she introduced herself as Dr. Sheila Rampasada, journalist. Yeah. And she heard my plea, and her heart goes out to me. And she wished to do an interview with me if I'm willing to give one. That is inside the prison. However, I said, yes, I am willing. And it started from there. I started to tell her about, she asked me about my condition, my present condition at that time, and my past, about the prison life, and I told her what it was and what it's like now, and I do never know what it will be like, because somewhere I believe I will die in this institution.
You thought that you would?
Yeah,
you would
I thought there was no way out. I thought I had lost in prison and can't find my way out, because all the effort my relatives, which is my sisters, my brothers, and certain members of the community where I'm from, even the village council in that area. Well, how I know this, because my sister went about with her daughter from house to house, from Palo Seco to almost Erin, asking people if they will plead for my release after, but those days wasn't 40, was not 42, it was about 30 years. And people were so amazed, they want to know, I thought your brother was outside. I can't understand. And people said, this is what my sister told me. People were amazed because, I mean, they knew me, and those who did not know me, which I left small, got an adult. And they say, your brother cannot be in prison, because the Trinidad and Tobago government or the public, together with the world, had get together and asked to free Mandela. Mandela spent 28 years in prison, and they believed it was an inhuman thing. And knowing that I am in prison 30 years at that time, and they not considering, but they just joined with the world asking to free Mandela.
Talk a little bit about why you were sent to prison in the first place.
Well, what happened, I was with a woman they call Marjorie Singh, who had 2 children for me.
That was not your wife?
No, it was how we call it, an outside woman.
Yeah, so you had sort of 2 families, two
yes,
situations.
I apart from having my wife who have 3 sons for me, I get involved with this young woman, and we had a relationship.
You were 30-something at the time?
I was 29 years of age, because that relationship
tell me if I'm wrong, but the story that I followed up on was that, so you had this thing going with, is Marjorie, you said is her name?
Marjorie Singh, they call her Charmaine.
And you used to give her money to hold for you, quite apart from giving her what you wanted to give her.
Yeah, but what happened, I was a lucky fellow. I used to work with well services, all the oil companies, through contractors, and it so happened that my luck stick when they told us they want us to go into Barbados to drill wells. That is well services at Bmobile Oil Company, and I was lucky to be one of the men of the crew to go. And I started to go since 1979. And you know, in that situation, we worked for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I used to hide. I didn't want my wife to know about this set of money. So having Charmaine with me, you know, I used to give her, say, put this in a bank account for me. and look, this is for yourself, you know. And it went on, so it was going all right, and every time I travel, I used to buy duty-free jewelry, you know, things, and or even clothing, and take it for her because I really love her.
Right, and they said that one day you went to get some of that money and she couldn't account for it.
One day my married wife told me the refrigerator she have home had broke out, and they say it can't be refilled with gas. So this was coming to Mother's Day, which is the 9th of May, 1982. Yeah. That was Mother's Day. So I wanted to surprise my wife, which is Kamala, with a refrigerator on Mother's Day. So I went down about, prior to that, sometime in about the 3rd or the 4th of May, I came back from Barbados, and I went to Charmaine. The relationship was very good, and I told her, I want you to take out $3,000 for me, or from my account. I told her what it was for because my wife knew I was with her, and you know, sometimes my children, with the 3 boy children I have with Kamala, will come down by Charmaine and spend time. Sometimes the 2 children Charmaine have with me, I will when I'm there, Kamala, this time I bring them, and the relationship between the 2 women wasn't that bad. So cheating, you know, it wasn't nice.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah. Okay, I want to get
to Charmaine to take out this $3,000 so that I will buy a fridge for Kamala for Mother's Day. And when she told me come back in about 3 days' time, she will have time to go in the bank. When I went down there for that, on that purpose, 3 days after, and when I went there, I saw the little shack I had built for locked up. And I said, asked the neighbor, which was a girl in Colorado, where Charmaine, if she know where she gone. She said, all she know that Charmaine pack up and take the 2 children that been she clothing, and the children clothing and left. She don't know where Charmaine gone. But I had a belief if she went by her mother, because we had a little misunderstanding prior to that, and she went by her mother. And, you know, going there and begging her to come.
All right, so we have to get to the point where something happened. There was a confrontation.
Well, yes, and she was by her mother, so I went there and I asked her about this money thing and thing. She told me she will go back. So, but I said, well, where I meet you? She said, I'm spending some time by Mommy. So, it happened on the 9th of May now. I went back and asked, well, I'm not waiting for this money. Look, today's Mother's Day, and I want to buy this thing. And she told me, Mommy borrowed the money. And Mommy, I said, well, what about your little money? She said, well, she brought out the 2 bank books and showed me $10, $10. They abused the money within their luxurious life, and I was holding a baby, which was Felicia. She was 1 year and 8 months. That was my daughter, standing in the living room. Back up, I was jamming a furniture, a chair, and it had no cushion. And within this argument, we started to argue, and the brother-in-law pushed me. I had no step in back room, so I fell with the baby and I crashed through the chair. You know, I mashed up the people's chair then by my fall.
But the story was, the part of the story was that somebody approached you with a cutlass and you were able to get it away.
And when after that, a fight started, and with all the sisters and the brother-in-law, and we ended up in the kitchen. I fell along the step, but the house was a short house, so it was not no great fall. It was about 3 feet high. And I believe it was Charmaine. Somebody had a cutlass, and I get away that cutlass, and in that way I chopped.
You just went.
Yeah, and it was Charmaine I chopped, and said, Mr. Andy, I know I murdered Charmaine. I don't know why. I don't
Well,
know.
there's a saying for it, you lost it at that point.
Yeah, I don't
and
know
how
why.
I interpret it is that you got in a situation
And
where you had to defend yourself.
I had no sense of reasoning because I was so angry. And I remember chopping shaman twice. I can tell you, I did it. But 14 chops, I don't know how I did that. I don't know why the pathologist is saying that shaman have 14 chops. I don't know who it is I who did it, but what state of mind was I in?
Yeah. So how it came to the point where you became a candidate for release from prison, which is another story as to what happened and what didn't happen in the way that...
About 2012 now, after my sentence of death was commuted to life imprisonment for the rest of my natural life, and serving that time, I was brought to the MSP prison, and they had programs.
Maximum security prison.
Yes, and due to that, they had a lot of programs were now opening, and I attended the programs and cultural program and church program, you know, like anger management, walk tall. This was my doctor, Palmer. She was some sociologist, tell you about how to overcome hurdles, criteria thinking, and I did most of these programs. We got certificates for participating, and due to that, they tell us that they're gonna take up our 4 years review. And after the
So you'd been in prison how long by that time?
by that time, well, from 2000 to from 1982, right? I was in prison when I came out from in 1987. I was convicted, sent to the death row, and in 1994, my sentence was commuted, and I spent 6 years there. And I came to the maximum security prison that have to be seven, and 5 is 12, and 12 and 6 is 8. I spent 18 years before I was brought to the maximum security prison.
I went in there. Was commuted.
Yeah, I went in there at the age of 36.
Yeah.
So if I spent 17 years before, at the time of the maximum security prison, there were no programs or anything. It happened when we went to the maximum security prison. So in the year about 2012, they told us that they are looking for men to pardon due to the mercy committee.
This process started in 2012 when you got into that group. You said the authorities said they were looking to pardon.
Yes.
And it took 12 years for that to happen. Because we're now in 2024.
Yes. And they started to take a biosocial report on all who were eligible to be pardoned, all who did be a candidate to be pardoned. And they had my family. They wanted something more. So my sister, who was with me from 1982, and the rest of the family. But by the time her daughter had grown to a woman, so she had accompanied my sister with my wife, Kamala, because the relationship was built back in a way of sorrow for me. And they went about the village in Palo Seco, all through Rancho, visited the village council, and the people at that village who used to, how you may call him, president of the village council, we went to school together. His name was Nolly Bacchus, and then you had
But so there were people on your side?
And my sister was asking them that the prison wants something, that after all these years in prison, how the community feel that if I integrate back, what they think that should happen, if I'll be accepted among them.
And that happened. The people signed
Yeah,
things
they were
would
so
support you
amazed.
and so on.
Everyone was pleading for my release.
I want to bring up something you told me in a discussion we had, that during that period in prison, your wife Kamala came to see you.
Oh, yeah.
And you told her the way things going, she should seek a divorce. And,
Well,
and she told you go to hell.
That was earlier. That was I got condemned in 1987. And when I went in the condemned, I realized that is the end of the journey, because I am going to be executed. And having the Christian people who visit the condemned, you know, I start to interact with them, and I say, look, since I'm going to be executed, let me seek some peace with my Creator, turn a new leaf in life, you know. And I made arrangement. I asked them if they will rebaptize me. You see, I was an Anglican from a child, and I wanted to walk this road to come into the gallows with the love of God still upon me. However, well, that did materialize. I did get baptized, and within that period, about a year after I was baptized, Kamala used to visit me on every 3 months, you know, because she caught up with the kids and them I left her with, and she was struggling to make ends meet. However, I told the woman, which is Mrs. Mildred Jones, I'd give her a name, you know. I used to call her the mighty angelic warrior. She took me or helped me walk the road.
One of the churches.
Yeah, that was the 7 days woman, and helped me walk that road. And I told her, look, I'd like you to call my wife, and she lives at Santa Flora, and tell her I really want to see her, and tell her it's very important. Well, it do happen. So happened that my wife came a week after, and she reproached me, she said, Dan, you know, I just come when I have time, you know, but the way you send him for me, like I don't come, and what's so important about this, I know your situation. I said, it's very important. So after she held my hands, because I was in a little cubicle, you got to hold hands, and I told her, Pet, you know, I called her Pet. I said, Pet, this morning, girl, I sent for you because my life has been forfeited, and I'm ready, more or less I'll be going to the gallows, because you know, that was my sentence. And before I go, I want to ask you, I want to offer you a divorce, because you are a young woman still and you can continue a new life. Oh boy, well, that was a mistake I made. She started to reproach me and tell me, oh, wicked and evil man, because I used to be dishonest, be unfaithful to her, and now that she have one thing left, husband and wife married, and I want to take away that from her. And I was so surprised, I thought she would have been glad for a divorce. Well, we had it real hard, and the prison officer was to hold her. She break down and crying and the thing, and well, I beg her to forgive me for offering that. I thought it was the right thing, not knowing that whatever relationship
it meant something to her that she was your wife, and she didn't want to give away that.
Well, she told me that it's twice a word she made that statement. She said, Dan, when I married you, I could remember they say for better or for worse, right? So I don't care what you, if it was good or if it was bad, no, you still belongs to this relationship, because she still wants to be my wife. And well, you know, we can make up that quarreling and the sorrow until it went on so, until the day of my petition. That the day Dr. Sheila Rampasada, about 6 years ago, went and interviewed her. And it was, she put it on the papers and on the TV. I didn't see the program, but In the morning, I hear prisoners calling me Ragdoll. Well, I was a child name that nobody in prison knew because I used to use the word, I get that name Ragdoll when I used to go into the beach camp area where those white people, we call engineers and them live, and I used to go to, as a ball boy on the tennis court, and I was raggy and we were poor, and you know, being among their children, they started to say, call me, they say, look, Ragdoll, and that name stick upon me.
I want to ask you one point. In 2020, you said to a reporter that you had become an angry man with no sense of reason. You had become like an animal.
An animal. Well, that's the only thing I feel I could tell someone. I cannot tell someone because I'm honest, I had did that cruel act. I know I had did it. And I wish it was the other way around. Because it was a fight. And I believe...
What do you mean when you say...
They better they had murdered me instead than that poor woman. Because I didn't murder her for hate. I never murdered her for that. I believe is in the fight and the way I was treated. I was very brutalized and I did murder Charmaine. And when I sit in prison, I say, but it was I who had murdered, you know, because what was the reason I murdered Charmaine for, you know?
So you were prepared to pay the price?
Yeah, and when, you see, I was convicted, and after time I say, you see the sentence, I deserve it. I deserve my sentence. But as time go by, I began to get old, weak, and tired, and I saw that they were choosing people as a candidate to be going up for a pardon. And I had all the qualifications. I was qualified. By that time, I was how you may call it, a model prisoner, according to what they told me, that I was chosen, that way I was chosen. And nothing was materialized.
What do you think made for that? That something happened and you became a model prisoner. And I would ask, what makes the difference then? Moving from somebody who had given up, you were expected that you would have been taken to the gallows one day and you lost all reason. And then was that the influence of the church people who used to come? And
I had turned a new leaf because my past life was one of lies. I believe, you know, when I lie and somebody believe, I believe, well, I must it. But that is the worst thing. That is the most, because I was reading somewhere, and I come to understand, when you tell a lie, you have to know a next lie to prop it up, and a next lie to prop up this lie. And so it goes, and your life will become a life of lies. And sorry, you will believe in your own lies. And that is the road of total destruction. I will tell that, I walked that road. And that way, when I was sentenced to hang, I decided, let me see if I could walk the road to God then, because I was far, far away from him. That way I went and rebaptized. And from that day on, I stopped lying, I stopped cheating, you know. I'm more, as a model prisoner, I started to help other inmates who couldn't read and write, and they had no school at that time. And I was, how you may call it, I was accepted by my fellow inmates also, and by the officer.
You think that is what makes the difference between yourself and other people who get behind bars, who become worse and just become irretrievably
You mean,
bad?
Well, in prison there are mixed population. You find some that came to prison like I, never live a life of crime. Either they were drinking rum in the rum shop, and then the quarrel starts, and one take a stool and hit one, or pull out a knife, or even the rum bottle, and it end up murder. And these men, I meet men like that. And I met men also who had premeditated murder by committing robbery, and while the robbery was in process, something happened. I remember a guy told me who was charged for murder, he said, Dean, I never really wanted to murder money. I went on a robbery. And I was pointing the gun at the man who was the owner of the supermarket. And he said, what do you think I should have, man? A door slam, bam! And I shot that man. Well, within the end, the police did hold him. And he was with me in the prison. Well, thank God he was resentenced like I, and he's outside today. About 4 months ago, they freed him because he started to walk a road to show that he was sorry, great remorse. And
did that, as far as you know, the circumstances as to how the gun went off, that became part of his testimony, and
yes,
so it became a point for review.
Yes. He said if that door didn't slam, you know, it gets him frightened or something, and that gun just went off. He really didn't know. He didn't go, but you know, in robbery, you know, they have to be, or whatever, they go with guns or cutlass or whatever. And I met him, and about just before court closed, around May, he was a candidate of resentencing, and the judge saw that the great remorse after his murder and his country, they call it industrious. You know, he attended programs, he went to school, he rehabilitated himself, and now they will give him a chance to reintegrate back in society. And the judge saw it, and the lawyers and even the state representative, they had come together that yes, he deserved a chance. And they say, he did more years than I, you know. Yeah. I did 42, he did 44 when he was freed.
Yeah. You know, the time is merciless, and we just have a couple of minutes left. Oh. I may have to have you back to talk about what do you do, what do you see yourself doing for the rest of the time that God has given you? Yeah, well, and for the rest of the time that God has given you now to continue.
Well, as I'm free, I'm a free man today, and I decided after I settle down, you know, this is about 14 or 15 days since I'm free, and I want to do a lot of things about getting my birth certificate, my ID card, my pension, everything organized. And from then on, I want to visit the community center in Palo Seco and present myself. Of course, I know I'm not going there as an Olympic champion. You know, people will glad to see me with no gold medal. I'm going in there as a man who have done something wrong and something dreadfully wrong, and seeing that people should know the truth, who wants to walk that road, especially, well, the youth. And I want to tell them, turn away from that road. And I will give them such a reason why they should turn away from that road.
Well, this is the end of part one of this special edition of the program 10 Questions. We'll have part two coming up. Stay with us. This is Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching. Once again, my guest, Felix Dean, a man who spent 42 years in prison, and the story about his trials and tribulations, as you call them. Part two of that discussion here on 10 Questions.
It brings only destruction, because when you are in prison, it happened to me. It is not I in prison, my poor mother in prison, my father in prison. The whole people who loved me, they were in prison with me. And my mother died 2 years after 1984, my mother died. And it's my sorrow she have taken upon with the illness she had. And I had brought that up to my mother. I could tell you that. I am so sorry that happened. My mother, you know, she always believed.
You hold yourself
yeah, like
guilty and
I'm responsible for it. And up to today, I wish, well, Mr. Andy, I tell everybody sorry. Sometimes I walk, as I told Dr. Sheila Rampasad, who was interviewing me, I say he might tell the plants and all accusing me. But even them I tell sorry. Yeah,
so
because I was sitting among the plants and they were like, what you mean, like accusing me. And I say, I'm sorry, telling the plant and all sorry. Well, I fed up saying sorry, honest.
But don't you think you're fortunate in a sense that you have your sister, your nieces,
oh,
and
yes.
sort of thing,
Well, I never thought I would have,
on your side,
after being interrogated back in society, I thought it would have taken me months, gradually.
Yeah.
But that very night, that's what I told Dr. Sheila Rampasad, I felt like the prodigal son who went away and played the fool and decided to go back home. And when I thought they would have treated me with a kind of scorn courtesy, you know, boy, they gave me the best, everything. And I say, well, I fitted back instantly. Like I was never in prison that very sad night. Oh, the way they hold me, the way they treated me. And the next day they came me for an excursion down Caranage and met people. I went and buy a Malta. I started to walk among the living people because I had seen myself as a dead man. And I talked to the men who were fishing on the jetty, and I feel, well, this thing about reintegrated back in society would have taken time. No, it took instantly when my family had received me and the love they had showed unto me. Well, I had expected that because, you know, they used to, sorry, they used to, since my wife died 2 years ago, Christmas will make it 3 years, my plan was to be with her because she had wanted me back, and she died. And then my sister said, Dan, I was with you 42 years, you belongs to me, you're coming home by me. And my children have grown into men and have wife and children, and they used to visit me with their children. And my son John tell me, Dad, no, you're my father, you're coming home by me. And then other people telling me, no, my bigger brother, and everybody wants me. I have so many places to go. No one treats me with no scorn courtesy, even up to date. They buy clothing. I never thought I would have been, when I put on this civilian clothes, I felt, where was I? You know, like
So you've begun a new life as it.
Oh yes, instantly. That is why I want to share my past experience, because in prison I have seen too many children. They are my children. There are hundreds of them. And I don't know how to say it. They believe they are walking the right road, the road of total destruction. And I want to tell those who never been on that road, who have intention to go in that road, I want to tell them the truth. I want to present myself, but you know, I don't know how they will accept me as a ex-murderer, you know. As I told you, I'm not an Olympic champion or something that people will...
You don't know, but you won't be bothered by it. You won't, that won't prevent you
No,
from
no. It will not. That is why I'm glad I have that interview with Dr. Sheila Ramsden and also with you. You know, I want people to know the truth. I want the people to know the truth of those who, especially the youths then, keep away from that road, find something to do. You know, I met men in prison who changed, you know, and they tell me, Dean, But if I go there, boy, and I get a work on a rubbish truck, boy, I will take that. I done away with crime. And you know, I was lucky to see that happen. About that before I came out of prison, I was in Claxon Bay Correctional Facility. Well, another prison, it had no walls and you're near the public road. And with the prison garbage go right by the road. And I was sitting and they picking up garbage and a guy turned around and he watched me. And he said, "Dean, you're still in prison, boy?" And when I look, I say, "Hey, Piper, is you?" And he was one of the guys told me, if he get a work on a rubbish truck, he not going back to crime. And that man who I call Piper, he is the exact man who told me that in prison.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
So, and you've been saying that coming back out in the world now, there are lots of things that you have to get accustomed to because life changed, the world has changed while you were inside.
Oh, yeah, well, Mr. Johnson, I thought, well, while I'm in prison, I know there will be changes. But when I step out of that prison, I was in a new world. The world I knew, well, I use this word, a primitive world. Where was a truck is now a highway. Where was a little parlor is a little shop, a shop.
A supermarket.
Where was a shop is a big grand supermarket. And there, where were empty places between houses, everybody, the whole area full of and big houses. And well, the road, I never thought we had so many vehicles on the road. And the road, well, what you call the flyovers and the, like in Port of Spain. I believe, well, this is my belief. I believe I'm not in Trinidad, I'm somewhere in America. You know, this thing with this road with the pillars. Yeah. I never thought I would have lived, flyover, how you call them. It is grand. It is grand. It is, and I'm not saying I'm confused among it, but everything is quite different. Even the people themselves, you know, because I have been in the family circle, you know, but I have been with my sister and the rest of the family, going shopping, going to supermarket, going to get my birth certificate and other things, and people just, you know, everybody busy, everybody, and there are so, you know, nobody tells one another good morning, you know, they don't have that. I met that. Very rare somebody say good morning, or you sit in a taxi and when you go in you can say good morning, you don't have that. It hardly have that. It's a kind of everybody to themselves.
I want to ask you something you said when we spoke a couple of days ago, that somebody told you that there's a 6% chance of people, what is called recidivism. People.
Yeah, I may commit, within the first year, I may commit myself and then back up in prison. I don't see, I don't know how they could reach that conclusion, because I believe within the year I could do so much to prevent others from coming into prison. Why should I come back?
Yeah,
and
I address that specifically to you, or is it that those are the statistics and that you?
Well, I don't know how they read that statistic, and I'm not in that field, like if it's a psychiatrist or somebody. But however, I think I cannot see myself coming. If I go back to prison, I will not turn my back on the prison. They are my officers and prisoners. They were, whether I like it, they were my family. It's 42 years. From birth to 36 years, I lived in this world, the world I lived.
So before that event.
And I spent 6 years more in prison. I spent 42 years. And the people, as I told officers, we are not friendly with the same. You only talking so all meet me in prison. Every prison personnel at this moment, from the commissioner, come right down to a recruit, meet me in prison. Those who I met resigned, and most of them are already passed away.
So nobody who is a prison officer today, who was a prison officer when you got sentenced?
No, there's none, not even the commissioner. Well, even the past commissioner, Mr.
You mean the one previous to now?
Yeah, Dev Prasad, Ramuta.
Yeah.
He is a person, well, not my hand. All of those fellas who were about 40, he's a person shake our hand. And he just say, Felix, you is one of the men who teach me this work,
There was a man named, was it Desmond Stewart, and his son was from Arima, who was prison commissioner. But he was that, at Golden Grove.
Well, you mean when I came in? When I came in, there was the commissioner of prison, but they used to call him R.T. Charles. And then this one that got shot, they call him, he got shot in a robbery.
His name doesn't come to mind, and he was a commissioner.
Yeah, he was a commissioner too. Yeah. Then Mr. Roger was a commissioner.
And this was in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah,
Mr. Stewart.
But up to this day, Mr. Stewart, all of them, there were about 10 commissioners of prison. Yeah. Well, I think Mr. Carasby, I left prison, and Mr. Carasby ruled, because Mr. Ramuta had resigned and Mr. Carasby take over. But Mr. Carasby met me in prison.
Yeah. I want to ask you about, when we spoke, there was a man who had come to prison because he had killed his wife, and he said to you that he had taken some drugs, and what he saw in front of him was a snake.
Well, when he came to prison, well, he had committed himself by murdering his wife, and he said he was God's Neptune, and he said, well, after a time in Raymond prison, he told me, Felix boy, you see this thing they call cocaine? It is really something like, it is the most evilest drug. He said, someone introduced him to smoking cocaine. And he said when he took that cocaine, he hallucinated and saw his wife as a big snake coming to devour him. And he believed the only thing could save him is to slay that snake. And it did happen. But after he got over his drug state, he realized what he had done.
He lived in Westmoreland.
Yeah.
And he was a major figure in an organization called
Yes,
the Employers Consultative Association.
He used to do little, I believe his wife was a lecturer in UWI, and he himself used to go be in certain functions, lecturing people.
He spoke Spanish fluently.
Yes, and he said when that happened and he realized what he had done, he took poison, but it was weedicide, no, insecticide. And he said when he took that, he started to get a diarrhea and he had a weak state, and police came in that way and arrested him. Well, he didn't die. They pump out the...
So he would have taken his life because when he discovered what he did.
Yeah, but he took his life because he thought the weedicide, insecticide poison, but it didn't kill him then. The police found them before perhaps it took great effect because it took him medical. I don't know if they say pump out the poison, and I had Godson Neptune alive, and he lived a life of regret just as I did. And Godson Neptune was in the academical field. Well, I'll tell you what Godson Neptune. Every prisoner and prisoner of the museum, they will call me Dean. But when they see Godson Neptune, they say, "Morning, Mr. Neptune." I don't know, that title will remain on Godson Neptune. Anybody, even officers, come in, "Mr. Neptune, they want you in front." They will never say Neptune. So you can understand the kind of a relationship we had in prison. Yes. He gave respect and he got it back. And he gave assistance to many prison and prison officers, you know, telling them certain things in life that will help them on their journey.
But he didn't last long after he was released.
No, I was surprised because I knew I was opposite him. And I believe it was a Saturday, a weekend holiday, a weekend. And they come and call him. They say they want him in front about 4:30 in the afternoon. And he gone and they say, well, we never look at it as a pardon. And when he went in front, he spent about an hour, and he came back and he said, "Gentlemen, I'll be leaving you all." And he packed whatever little things he wanted. He had a lot of books, but he left them. And he said that he will be going by Pastor Wilma and them at some church you have in Point.
In Point Porter.
Yeah, and it did happen. And about a week after, we saw Neptune on the papers with tie and speaking to the public. And about 2 months after he died, he didn't last. His freedom was short.
You said in that conversation we had a couple of days ago that there was a point in which you said you doubted the existence of God. You said that because things were happening in a kind of way that it wasn't working to your
well, I believe. You see it had given me hope when they started in 2012. I will be free. And my relatives they loved me and they prepared from 2012, 2013, 2014, and so it going up to,
it took 12 years for that process to play.
Yeah, well, that process didn't work. No, there was no mercy. I was not granted mercy. You see, I was supposed to be granted mercy with the recommendation from the prison maid that I should be released because these are the facts about Felix Dean incarceration while I'm in prison. But it never, no one, the last one I think was rejected by right now he's the Minister of Industry, how you call that ministry? Stuart Young.
Stuart Young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was the minister at that time. And I don't know, and then Mr. Israel Kennedy wrote that petition for me. And when the lawyers told me that right now it is under consideration, and when they take up the matter, Stuart Young said, I'm not ready for release. And I was blanked. And this thing came up. Well, what opened the door is Dr. Sheila Rampas, and not for me, for all the men, ex-condemned prisoners. When the world get to know what is taking place, you have men 42 years in prison, 45, 47, and you know, and how could you have these men still in prison, you know? And decided to work on that, and the Privy Council gave a ruling on somebody judgment that all these men who were taken down from the condemned prison and had a sentence changed to commuted to life in prison. They say it was done illegally. When we were taken down from the condemned prisoner, we were supposed to be taken before a judge individually, because not everybody's crime is the same, and they never did that. So the Privy Council said our sentence that passed upon us will pass in an illegal way. So these men is to be taken back to court to be re-sentenced. That is 2 years ago, and that started the ball rolling. They appointed judge to do this matter, and the judge said it is only reasonable after all these years, and you're industrious in prison, you're reformed, remorse, saying sorry, and you know, that the judge and them say, well, yes, we have to re-sentence these men, but we cannot because they already did their sentence. So they call it sentence has been served. And that is how I fit in it, and I was lucky to be out today with the representative of the lawyer, Mr. Daniel Khan, and I wish I had more like them. They did it without any fee, because when they first contacted Daniel Khan, that is my niece, she worked in the European...
One of the EU mission to Trinidad.
And she went and she met Daniel Khan in some function, and she told him about my situation in prison, and she was begging him if he could represent me, and he said, apparently he made an appointment, and when she went back, he said she will do the matter. So the next question was, what is the cause? I know Mr. Khan told her, there will be no cause.
That is he or his father saying that?
No, he.
Yeah, Daniel Khan.
But Mr. Khan, no, the father.
Israel Khan.
I read an article on the papers, that is about 4 years ago, and he said they had planned to Lego 50 miles by Howard Bonley. He was the Minister of Justice.
Yes,
and
in the last administration.
Yeah, and he said he come to understand there are so many old people in prison who have spent so many years, some of them in a geriatric state where they can't walk for themselves, and he believes that they should be given a pardon. That is the pardon Israel Khan, Mr. Khan, the father, had wrote for me. And this is what he wrote in the paper. I don't know Felix Dean, I've never met him. But hearing a story, hear the story of Dr. Sheila Ramps, that I take it upon myself to write a petition pleading for his release, that he should be included of the 50 men that Mr. Bonley wants to select to receive. He would like to see me spend my independence outside. And I don't know Mr. Khan. I never asked him, never meet me. But that, you see that article that you all wrote, that wake up a lot of people. And I wish you all will continue that. There are a lot of men, well, I'm not here to judge, but there are a lot of men who I believe willing to come back in society and willing to, if society accept them as they accepted me, boy, that will be something like reborn again. Yeah. They will contribute. They will be good men, and the age. They
still have a lot
80
of life.
years. Some of them is 80 years. Some of them, I am 78 in January. I'll be 79. But all of them is about almost our age.
So octogenarians, people,
yes,
some people who are 80.
Senior.
So there are people who are in prison in Trinidad and Tobago, 80 years old, and they've been there for like how long?
For how long? Well, they are long as me because they came into prison almost
in their 40s and so on.
Yeah, over 40 years ago, and they were about in their 30s already. So most of them is about, well, you have to say from 35 to 40 years in prison. Most of them passed through the condemned, we had a sentence commuted, and in prison up to this day. But
is it a question of process by which people's cases and be examined to see, well, who?
Well, no, the case is not to be examined.
Well, not the case, but the fact of the prison
well, that will
sentence.
come up in your resentencing. They will go back to your crime. They will tell, like my crime, you know, I'm not boasting with something I wish I wouldn't talk about. It is a hideous murder, you know, and according to the judge, and it is a cruel thing, and they will go back to that, and they will pause there, and they will go back to years in prison. They say, according to his biosocial, it is very good.
And the biosocial
is about, in prison, they tell you what you have done. You were in programs, you attended programs, you attended school, and you attended.
And they look at your attitude and.
Yeah, they really just walk. Even though we have a program which you call them the cultural program, like Diwali, Emancipation Day, we celebrated, and you know.
Do you know of any cases in which guys play the system? They know how to behave and how to perform such that they get a good review, but beneath that, the reality is otherwise?
Well, I don't think anyone got away with it, because the judge will want to get your documents in prison before they will resentence you. And there are a guy, the one who's charged for a Westmoreland murder, David Chocatin,
yes.
And the other guy,
Brad Boyce?
Huh?
Brad Boyce?
I don't know it. They just call him Ninja
That's his nickname? Ninja?
But that is not his name. And he was an adult age, so he was condemned. And Chocatin was in a juvenile stage, so he got a president. And the one who got a sentence review, that is about sometime in May this year, after the judge summed up his case, and she saw his prison record, and she told him, you are not ready for outside. The life imprisonment is suited your behavior. And she gave him, she resentenced him back to life imprisonment. So it ain't one who is going before the judge just because he's long in prison and he believe, well, you know, they're not dealing with that. They're dealing with, of course, they're dealing with the length of the term in prison, but what did you do that you should deserve a pardon or reintegration? Yeah. And according to this review we have before us, you have been very delinquent in prison. You don't care. You show no form of remote, you don't enter any program, not even religious program, you know. And it shows bad upon him. And he got back his lifetime. So he started a lifetime after, they say 30 years again. Because why? He did not try to better himself, that somebody will look upon that.
There's no evidence from him that he deserves a review when they come out and so on.
So he have to start all over again now. But he's still young. If he take it as a warning, he will get himself doing something constructive in prison.
All right. All right, we just have a couple seconds.
Whenever another year comes.
Let's sign off on your point about this. So this is you for the rest of your foreseeable life. You are walking a new road.
Yes. Right now I am walking in the land of the living, as a free man.
And that's the point at which you leave it, as a free man. Good to have you. Good to have you.
Very
good.
That's
Felix Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
See you next time.
WESN